Clarifying your why can be very helpful in working through depression because depression is not in your biology, it's in your lifestyle. Your genes can indeed make you more susceptible to mood swings, but depression is not a result of a chemical imbalance, but an imbalance in the way we live. This is why identifying your most relevant context in which your experience of depression arises is critical to understanding and moving through it effectively. Because if your depression is being driven by environmental changes, the last thing you need is to focus the limited amount of energy you have psychoanalyzing your childhood traumas. Or if you derive no meaning from your career, trying to curate the perfect lifestyle for you won't help you improve your mood. What will help you move through depression is what I'm about to share with you, and that is a 4-step guide brimming with resources and one profound exercise that has helped me go through depressed to fully expressed in my own journey. So let's get to it. But first, what exactly is depression? Depression is a mood disorder that affects how you feel, think, and behave. It's often characterized by a persistent feeling of sadness that can make you lose interest in activities that you once enjoyed, and can lead to isolation as you attempt to cope with uncomfortable feelings such as anxiety, loneliness, and grief. Why do you feel depressed? There are many circumstances that influence depression, so there's not one particular cause across the spectrum. This means that depression is highly, although not completely, contextually dependent. For instance, any form of drug, be it depressants, opioids, stimulants, or hallucinogens, affect your ability to control and influence how your nervous system processes your experiences, which influences how you perceive your depressive mood. Another context that can exacerbate your experience of depression is related to the weather. More specifically, our moods can be influenced by the changing of the seasons. Now, here's something interesting. Did you know that your geographic location can also influence your emotional state? It's commonly known that our microbiomes differ from country to country, but a recent study suggests that moving to another country can also alter your gut bacteria, which kind of makes sense because you're now exposed to a whole new world of life stressors, different foods, and environmental pathogens. These changes can alter your gut health and influence how you feel. How you feel is also shaped by how you were brought up, and those childhood memories are the context that will determine how you think and behave. For example, a traumatic upbringing significantly increases the risk for depressive episodes as an adult because you learn to unconsciously engage in negative self-talk and reinforce maladaptive behaviors. So, say that you weren't fed properly as a child. In adulthood, you may have gotten into the habit of eating fast food for most, if not all, of your meals. And this limits how many nutrients your body has to work properly, which then affects your capacity to regulate your moods. Depression can also be intensified within your work context, and this has to do with both quantity and quality of work. The quantity of work is directly tied to your stress levels, how much your nervous system can put up with and how long it can sustain it before it shuts down or burn out. Quality of work, on the other hand, is closely related to how meaningful your work is and how much you enjoy what you do. When we do things that are important and meaningful to us, we often find ourselves moving through depressive episodes with more ease and grace. But this brings up a bigger question, which is, what is important and meaningful to you? What do you value? Or in other words, where do you find your purpose? Clarifying your why can be very helpful in working through depression because depression is not in your biology, it's in your lifestyle. Your genes can indeed make you more susceptible to mood swings, making these chemical imbalances more challenging to overcome. But depression is not a result of a chemical imbalance, but an imbalance in the way we live. Now, I'm not trying to romanticize anyone's struggles. This is why identifying your most relevant context in which your experience of depression arises is critical to understanding and moving through it effectively. Because if your depression is being driven by environmental changes, the last thing you need is to focus the limited amount of energy you have psychoanalyzing your childhood traumas. Or if you derive no meaning from your career, trying to curate the perfect lifestyle for you won't help you improve your mood. What will help you move through depression is what I'm about to share with you, and that is a 4-step guide brimming with resources and one profound exercise that has helped me go through depressed to fully expressed in my own journey. So let's get to it. The first step is to identify the most prevalent context or contexts that activate your depressive mood. And you can do this by answering these questions. Do you currently have autonomy and freedom to explore and grow? Do you have respect from others? Do you find meaning in your work or daily activities? Do you feel seen and understood by others? Do you feel closely connected to others in your life? Do you feel that you matter? That you impact the world and the life of others in a positive way? Do you feel hopeful about the future and what you can become? Do you have positive interactions with others on a regular basis? Do you do things just because you enjoy them? And if so, what are those things? Are you proud of who you are beyond your status and material possessions? Do you feel humiliated by anything that you have to do currently in your life? Have you recently experienced a significant change in your life, such as loss, disease, move to another city or country? Because depression can be unpleasant, it's natural to see it as an enemy to be eliminated. However, the more we respond to our depression symptoms with avoidance or coping, the less confident we're going to feel moving through life when we are in the state. So once you pinpoint the general context or contexts that intensify your depressive mood, let's go through what you can do about it in step 2. And we'll start with the most prevalent habit that exacerbates depression, which is self-judgment. Everyone's experience of depression is unique to them. However, of the many things that contribute to the onset of this emotional state, the most common one is negative self-talk. This downward spiral begins with distorted perceptions, judgmental beliefs, and automatic thoughts about the world and/or our own depressive mood. This is what leads us to that feeling that we're not good enough or deserving enough, that perhaps we are a burden to everyone we care about. We may even convince ourselves that nobody wants to be around us and would probably be better off if we just disappeared from the face of the earth. When we begin to paint our world in a specific way, our brain will naturally begin to look for confirmation that supports these views, and in doing so, it alters its chemistry to reflect back what we believe. This is how we influence our perception of our environment. These thoughts reflect our struggle with our own identity or a loss of direction in life. Since we lack clarity on our purpose, we begin believing that everything we do is wrong and therefore we are wrong and just a waste of space. This, of course, could not be further from the truth because you exist. And if you're listening to this, then you're not a mistake. You may be teaching your brain to reinforce thought patterns that produce feelings of inadequacy, anger, guilt, loneliness, and sadness, but you're not inadequate, angry, lonely, or sad. You're just not meeting your needs and reinforcing self-boundaries because most likely no one ever taught you how to do that. So, for the sake of brevity, if you experience any of these emotional states and wish to learn more about how to set boundaries for yourself or befriend your inner critic instead of fighting it, we've created videos on these topics and we'll leave the corresponding links in the description below. The third step is designed to help you move through depression in a sustainable way. Oftentimes when we feel depressed, we try to force ourselves to feel better, to put on a happy face. But the truth is that positive thinking your way out of it is not going to work, because you cannot change how you feel if you're in resistance to it. Instead, learn to accept your circumstances and then choose how you actually want to feel. To give a clear and practical example, let's say that you're sick or depressed, and you don't want to be sick or depressed. You don't want to be a burden to anyone. You cannot miss work because you have a deadline coming, or you fear you will lose your job. You may feel like crap, and you barely have any strength to get out of bed because your whole body hurts. In this scenario, the last thing you want to do is to fake your way into healing, like forcing yourself to believe that if you think positive thoughts, then you will be fine. If you're sick or depressed, you're not fine. Complaining or worrying about not being fine won't heal you either, but accepting you're sick or depressed will. Because from that space of self-compassion, you can move towards a better feeling space simply by asking yourself, what can I think, say, or do that will make me feel a little bit better right now? Does having some tea will make me feel better? Then let's do that. And then does sitting on the couch will make me feel a little bit better? Then I'll go sit on the couch. Now that I'm sitting on the couch sipping my tea, am I feeling comfortable? If not, then what can I think, say, or do that will make me feel a little bit better right now? Maybe I prefer to sit in silence for a minute until the sunshine starts to peek through the window and warming my body. And in that moment, I can choose to step outside and enjoy the sun. Or I can decide that what would make me feel a little bit better is to just take a nap. So that's what I'll do. Doesn't really matter what you do, because as you're figuring out how to feel incrementally better, you're no longer resisting or fighting against the fact that you're sick or depressed. Do this every day. Ask yourself in every moment, what can I think, say, or do that will make me feel a little bit better, and a little bit better, and a little bit better. And soon you'll find yourself actually feeling better, with more energy and motivation to live your life. Our minds tend to make changing our patterns harder, bigger, and more complicated than needed. Yet, as you focus on feeling better, you'll be able to move beyond the deep mourning of a life not lived. And this happens because listening to and caring for yourself stimulates the production of feel-good hormones like serotonin, which increases neuroplasticity in the brain, making it much easier to change negative thought patterns. This leads us straight to step number 4, which is to consider including more activities related to movement, rest, and nourishment to help you structure your healing journey. And here we could draw a list of things that you can do, but this video is getting long and you can get a ton more ideas if you watch our video on healing anxiety. And yes, you can heal anxiety, and in that video, I explain how. Finally, I want to introduce you to a tool that kicked me out of my depression. Now, to be clear, the context of my last bout of depression was seated in lack of purpose. If you find that your depressive mood is related to this context, then this is for you. Having clarity on a direction or a long-term meaningful purpose not only helps us to simplify our lives, but it encourages us to build confidence instead of spiraling further down into depression. So, if this is the case for you, how can you find your purpose? This is what you are about to uncover with this next exercise I like to call 5 Stories to Purpose. This is a variation of another exercise I created called 5 Stories from Trauma, but this one is designed to help you draw a picture of what lights you up. Nowadays, there are a lot of things vying for our attention, so our signal can get really jammed trying to figure out where we want to go. So in this exercise, I want you to grab a pen and paper or your phone and think about the top 5 moments in your life when you felt pure joy. These are fond memories. Memories you cherish deeply, even though not entirely. I mean, I loved summer camps when I was a kid, and it was also the first time that I got sent to the hospital, and that was not fun. So think about where you were, what you were doing, and who you were with, and write it down in a few words. In the next step, I want you to ask yourself, what made these moments important? In other words, how did they make you feel then? Do you remember what you were thinking or feeling at the time? For example, summer camp for me felt like a break from a tense environment at home. A moment where I was always outside, doing new things and engaging with interesting people, younger and older from all walks of life, and where I formed intense friendships. Actually, everything felt very intense, and even today I can tap into that feeling of ease, contentment, and excitement. Can you tap into yours too? What are the themes around these moments? Better yet, can you name those emotions? Once you write down what your special memories are and what makes them important to you, highlight the keywords and use them to try to make sense of your story. There's a reason why these moments were so important for you. So can you use these keywords to write one simple paragraph about what makes them part of your story? In my case, my stories show me what excites and motivates me. That I often find joy, deep contentment, and community when I'm around other people, doing group activities that I perceived as fun and challenging, and also being immersed in nature. That I am curious and adventurous, and that openness helps me build my confidence, a stronger sense of self, and it makes me feel more connected to myself and others too. Bringing awareness to these things that energize me forced me to contemplate how I could welcome them fully into my present moment. Because depression is not a battle to be fought, but a message to be understood. And just like all emotions, it will get amplified when we don't meet our needs to be seen, to be loved, to belong, and to matter. And it is from the space of more acceptance and self-compassion that we can begin to rebuild bridges to a more expressed life. Now it's your turn. What's your story? Hey, I'm Liz, and if you're new to this channel, check out our emotional well-being series to gain new insights and tools to regulate your emotions and reprogram your subconscious mind, so you too can live a fully expressed life. And until next time, have a good week.